Thank you very much. This is the joint work with Chiara Tamanini and Loris Vergolini, and it is just the first step of an analysis that we are starting right now about the successful results that Trentino display since a long while and that are well known since they are underlined in every presentation of the INVALSI assessment. The province of Trento traditionally has succeeded in the national assessments, and quite surprisingly succeeded also in 2021 after the COVID pandemic emergency, showing that there was no learning loss, differently from all the rest of Italy, and displaying results even better than the one observed in 2019. So that result was for us the opportunity to think about what makes Trentino so successful, and to decide to try to combine different data sets of previous national assessments in order to identify which factors lead to this performance. Here you see the performance of Trentino in 2021, and as you can see, in secondary school, grade 8, the performances were even better than they were in 2019. So this is the result that pushed us to go further in this analysis. And consider also that Trentino displays also very low rate of dropout. And this is another factor that suggests that we are including in our assessment all students, even the weakest ones, and so also this element reinforced the idea of this highly performant educational system. Highly performant educational system that is widely underlined in the media, as you can see here. I just made a quick check in Google, and so within this framework, we focused on this question. And we wondered at the beginning whether the favorable results were the consequence of favorable contextual factors, of higher school effectiveness, or of mixture of the two factors. And we have good reasons to think that both elements contribute to the success of the Trentino's pupils, because on one side, Trentino is one of the richer provinces in Italy, with several tiny towns, so a school infrastructure that is widely disseminated, that presents less segregation than elsewhere, probably. On the other side, the institutional framework of the educational system in Trentino is different, because we have a dual system starting after the 8th grade. We have a very high public investment in teacher training, and we have a systematic support for teachers, both for languages and for ICT, and also in those cases, the investment is higher than elsewhere. Surprisingly for us, when we started the analysis, the results showed that the very good performances that Trentino have were not probably exceptional compared to the ones of the other regions. And so we decided to focus here on this first part of the analysis and to present you what we are finding out. We cumulated weights of the INVALSI since 2014 up to 2019, so we are missing only the last 2021. And we have about 3 million observations, meaning that we can detect even tiny differences between Trentino and the other areas. And we focus on 8th graders. So we limit our analysis to only 8th graders because they are at the end of the common part of the educational system compared to the rest of Italy, before the dual system that Trentino has. And we also know that results at the end of the 8th grade are crucial for a lot of other consequences in terms of educational inequalities further on. And we made 3 comparisons. So the first one is Trentino with the rest of Italy, which is what we usually see. Trentino with the other northern eastern regions, and so relying on the usual administrative boundaries. And then a third comparison, which is on a less used administrative boundaries, that is comparing Trentino with the neighboring provinces. So only with the provinces that are really near Trentino, and that for this reason seems to be much more similar, at least in terms of contextual factor, if not in the education system. We use two definitions of good performance. On one side, the mean scores in math and reading, in math and Italian, sorry. And we also use another definition of good performance, that is the ability of the system to generate equity, so results that are not affected by ascription and not affected by parental education, migratory background, and the sex of students. We use two sets of models. The first one is just controlling for school years, so it is the gross difference, the one that we usually see when we look at the good performances of Trentino. So it is just a mean comparison. In this case, cumulating years, we are just controlling for school years. And the second model instead controls for the main predictors of student achievement, namely parental education, parental social class, citizenship, sex, plus class and school size, which are two factors well known in literature to be affecting students. About mean scores, here you see, just present briefly this table, which is the first one of a set of tables. We see the Prov tot means the difference between Trentino and the rest of Italy. Then we have Prov NE, Prov Northeastern, and contiguous neighboring provinces is the last one. And model 1 and model 2 means model, which is a simply comparison. Model 2 is instead a comparison once that we take into account students' characteristics plus school year plus class school size. For Italian, what you see, looking at the 8th grade, is that, as expected, we see that in a standardized measure, Trentino performs better than the rest of Italy. But when we compare it with the northeastern regions and with the contiguous provinces, we do not see any difference. And even we see a negative difference when we take into account students' characteristics. So there is not that exceptional result of Trentino. And you can see this also in this comparison over years, where Trentino is the red line and the other provinces contiguous are the blue ones. When we move to mathematics, instead, we find that there is this big difference at the beginning, but the big difference that we have tends to reduce, remaining relevant, but reducing very significantly in terms of students' composition, and especially in terms, you can see that comparing these results with these results in terms of contiguous provinces. So Trentino displays better results, even better results than the good ones that he has, with contiguous provinces only in mathematics, even when taking into account students' characteristics. And you can see that also this result is quite stable across years. So we are detecting effects that are statistically significant thanks to the fact that we are accumulating waves. We made an additional longitudinal analysis at the individual level, focusing on the 8th grade again, and focusing on the lower secondary school, sorry. And so we used the students that showed both waves of the INVALSI assessment for 5th grade in 2013-14 and for 8th grade in 2016-17, analyzing them longitudinally. And also in this case, we try to see what happens during the lower secondary school in Trentino compared to the other regions, to the other contiguous provinces, once that we control for students' performance before entering in the lower secondary school in Trentino. And we found this, I invite you to focus on the contiguous provinces that, as you can see, are for us the most relevant comparison, that for Italian, there is a growth. There is difference, not a growth, because we are not using measures that are directly comparable. For Italian, there is a difference that persists to be negative in Trentino lower secondary schools, and for mathematics, it is positive but not significant. About equity, what did we find? I'm going to present you another sort of graph. You can see, I invite you again. Sorry, there is this. Okay. No, it is not a problem of the surface, but not even a problem of this surface. Okay, it's not working properly. I will use this. It's very slow, sorry. I'm going to present you this couple of graphs, but I invite you again to focus on the right side of the presentation. You see the difference here in Italian in terms of equity for family background of students. You see the distance for students with parents who have lower secondary education or less, red lines, students coming from upper secondary educated parents, green line, or students coming from tertiary educated parents. And on the left side of the graph, you see the differences that we have in the contiguous provinces. Sorry, it's almost impossible to move this. Okay, contiguous provinces. On the right side, you see the difference that we detected in Trentino. And if we look at the relevance for Italian of educational background, family educational background, we see that Trentino displays equity pretty similar to the contiguous provinces. Now that we are used to this kind of graph, I can go on faster. You see that also comparing students' migratory background, the equity that Trentino guarantees is pretty similar to the one of the contiguous provinces. And the same happens looking at the gender. About mathematics, we see that Trentino instead is slightly less able to generate equity than the other provinces, both for parental education, migratory background, but not from gender. So summing up, Trentino clearly has very good performances, but not better performances once compared with the neighboring provinces, except for maths, where we detected these positive differences, small positive differences, but where it seems that we slightly pay the price of less equity to get that better performances. Overall, the performance of Trentino seems to be pretty similar to the one of the contiguous provinces, also in terms of equity. And our preliminary results, coming back to the question that we had at the beginning, is it a matter of contextual factors, or is it a matter of educational systems pointing in the direction of contextual factors, being the contiguous provinces so similar to Trentino? Next steps of our analysis, we are going to add also the 2021 in the analysis, because still there is that result that triggered us to investigate the Trentino case. And we are going to enrich the dataset with the contextual variables that we do not have at the moment in order to make the comparison between Trentino and contiguous provinces more reliable in terms of getting in the contiguous provinces really comparable towns, cities, and so on. In addition, we are wondering why math is different in Trentino compared to the other provinces. And we thought that at the moment we also worked on the mean comparisons, on the mean results, but it may be interesting also to focus on the subsample of students displaying excellent results to see whether that subsample is different in Trentino compared to the other provinces. Finally, coming back to the other possibility, which is the fact that we have different school effectiveness, we want to work also in the direction of the variability among institutes in the results of Trentino. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gianluca. There are many interesting stimulations here. Let's think about some questions. In the meanwhile, I was curious. Maybe you said, but I didn't get it. The neighbors. How did you choose them? By student characteristics?
No,
no.
We just choose the provinces that are neighboring Trentino. So we compare Trentino with Vicenza, Brescia, Verona.
Ah, just territorial.
Yes, territorial.
Okay.
And Belluno, sorry.
Okay.
And clearly Bolzano, but Bolzano is peculiar because for Bolzano we have a subsample of Bolzano students as well.
Okay. Are there any questions? Yeah, Giorgio Monti.
About the Italian,
Thank you.
About the Italian, the difference, you said that in math there is a difference, they perform better, but you don't see that in Italian. You don't see that in for Italian scores. But if you focus on those family, I don't know actually very well. I know that in Bolzano there is a lot of family where they speak German. I don't know if in Trentino is the same, but you may, I don't remember. I think in INVALSI you can see what language is spoken at home.
Yeah.
So if you try to focus only to check if there is a percentage of family where they speak German at home, so that's the reason why they perform. The difference in Italian is not that big. Okay. So focusing only on.
Yeah. Thank you. It seems a good suggestion. We did not work on that variable, but yes, probably not sure whether it is an issue of speaking German, but for sure it may be an issue of speaking dialect. But I'm not sure whether in the contiguous provinces the use of dialect is less intense. But we can go in that direction. Thank you. It's a good suggestion. Thank you very much.
Emanuele Pavolini.
Thanks, Gianluca and colleagues for the very interesting presentation. Two questions. One, okay, you say it's going to be part of your future research, but you have first hypothesis on math and why math would be different. Second, you argue that the Trentino model has specific institutional characteristics in terms of dual model and so on. But have you checked if some of the some of the counties you looked at, which are in the neighbor, in a way or another have a similar institutional features? Or for instance, Vicenza, does it have something functionally equivalent to what they do in schools in Trentino, or they're really different? So can you control for that?
Okay, thank you very much. That was the starting plan, trying to understand what makes the big difference. And so we expected that once comparing Trentino with the contiguous region, the contiguous provinces, we should found again the positive difference that we expected. But when we did not find that, our focus was more on, are we really saying that there is no difference? Once that the rhetoric that we usually have is in the opposite direction. So we focused on this part. About the difference between Trentino and the other regions, some preliminary thoughts that we made about which variables we may use are related to the characteristics of behavior that we have in schools. In example, the fact that we have an investment in ICT and in the professional development to use ICT, which is larger in Trentino than elsewhere. And that may be connected to mathematics, because usually teachers that mostly use that kind of technologies are math teachers. So to explain the results in maths, that seems promising, and we can rely on the teacher's questionnaire in order to see whether there is something they are able to explain the differences. Clearly, in that case, we will reduce our sample because we can use only the national sample and not the overall population, but in that direction is what we're going to do.
Stefania Pozio.
Yes, hello. As far as I know, Trentino has good results also in international assessment. So did you check if these good results is also, I mean, you have the same results also for the neighborhood provinces for internet, for example, in Pisa, it's a very, I mean, a peculiar assessment. So, and how do you explain this better? So maybe the education system works better in Trentino than in the other part of Italy. I don't know.
Yeah, we did not do that because we focused on the INVALSI data sets. But the crucial point to me seems to be that once we compare Trentino with the regions, we are making an unfair comparison, because we are comparing a specific provinces with very favorable contextual factors with a set of provinces where in every region there are provinces which perform less good than other provinces. I know pretty well Veneto because I come from there, and for sure all the provinces in Veneto do not perform equally well. And so what I'm wondering is to what extent we are comparing Trentino with the set of provinces each time and not making the comparison fair. That's the reason why we focused on the contiguous provinces, in order to reduce this risk of not making a fair comparison. So I expect, but we did not do that, that also with the international data set, we should find similar reduction in their performance. But that's a good thing to do in order to see whether it is something related to the data sets or something that instead is detectable also in data fact. It may be another robustness check for our results. At the moment, the fact that the result seems robust to me is the fact that we found the same differences year by year. So it is not something random, but it seems something persistent. But thank you. We will do that for sure.
Anna Malandrino. Mima Siniscalco, sorry. Please go on, sorry.
Okay, so thank you very much. I found this presentation really interesting. And of course, to follow it, the questions would need sort of a bit more of thinking about the whole thing. I have a question about the variable you selected as control variable for model 2. Because I've seen that you have put together a number of student level variable and some sort of class and school variable. And so you, in a sense, you've mixed something which is at the individual level and not changeable with something which is part of the game. So of the game in terms of school system. So I wanted to know whether you explored it separately before, or because it actually would be interesting to see whether the specific characteristic of the school system, of the school context in Trentino, and probably also in some of the neighboring provinces, has an impact.
You're right, we mixed together two levels of analysis. What I saw was that checking the coefficients related to the class size and school size did not matter very much. So I expect that removing them would not change the results, but it is something that we can do. In my opinion, school size and class sizes are something that even in Trentino are less changeable than other factors that you can manage at school level. So to me, they are not so easy to manage because they are strongly related to the number of pupils that you have in each town, considering also that the pupils moving from one town to another in context as Trentino is not so big. So I'm not sure whether it is something that may be changed, but it's your point, and we can run the analysis separately for sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Even showing that class and school size doesn't have an impact,
yeah,
it's an interesting result. In a sense, it confirms part of the literature, but since it's one of the points which is discussed in this moment in the policy debate, so maybe it would be interesting too.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I've got not a proper question. I'm just wondering, we always talk about Trento province, but the territory of Trento is really differentiated. So now just a curiosity, is this system working homogeneously, comparing Trento and Merano with the mountain valleys? Just I know it's complicated, I know, but just
okay. This is a boomerang for INVALSI, because now we ask for not anonymized data sets, having the possibility to know where every school is. And that would allow us for making much better analysis. Exactly, knowing exactly the location of the schools would improve the analysis in a great way. So this is a step that we will go on asking you additional data on this.
We're on that way, Patrizia.
I see Patrizia saying no.
Okay, thank you, Gianluca. There are not any other questions, not even online. Okay, so thank you
very much.
Thank you, everybody. The staff reminds to all the participants to go to the desk for the for signing the present for today if you didn't do that. Thank you.